Welcome to Positive Philter with your host, Philip Wilkerson, a podcast that focuses on friends, family, health, and career, with a little self-help along the way. Please join me in this journey for self-improvement, and I hope what I have to share will make you a better person, thus making the world a better place. I hope you enjoy the show. I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, people of the world. It's Philip Wilkerson back with another episode of Positive Philter. I'm joined by a special guest. Well, everyone's a special guest because they take time to join me on the show. I'm joined by a Mason legend in the making. You know, if you are around Mason or George Mason University and you have the pleasure of going to Eagle Bank Arena, you have 100% been to an event that's been organized or collaborated with or worked on by this guest today, Eric Cuthbertson. I think that's the first time I actually said his full last name. Just to give some caveat, our children went to the daycare on campus, and so we're just chopping it up. And he has quite a story to share. So before we get started with this discussion, Eric, just tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, I am. My name is Eric Cuthbertson. I am the general manager at Eagle Bank Arena. I am a former Toastmaster, so if you want to ding me for that audible pause there, Phil, by all means. I got my start at the University of South Carolina back in the early 90s. I hate to admit how old I am, but that is where it all began. I didn't really know what career path I was going to go down, but I knew it was going to be in the field of communications or something that wasn't in a traditional office setting. I just didn't see myself as that type of person. And I got turned on to the idea of sports management. And that is really where it began. And I have been living the dream ever since. I transferred into the major. I started getting experiences as an intern. My big break came when I went to North Charleston, South Carolina, and I worked at a brand new arena, still running today, called the North Charleston Coliseum, 10,000 seat arena, and it was brand new. And I was 23 years old. I started as an intern, got an entry level marketing job after my internship was completed, and that really launched a 30-year career in live events, venue management, and an absolute love affair and a way of life, more so than anything else. This is my lifestyle, working nights and weekends and being at events and walking around with a walkie-talkie and always being on call. That is as much about who I am as what I do. And I wouldn't change it for the world. I've been so fortunate. I've had opportunities to work with one of the best live event producers in the world, Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus, Disney on Ice, from the famed producers Feld Entertainment. I worked with them for about 10 years. I've worked with a variety of different venue management companies, currently working for a fantastic venue management company called Monumental Sports and Entertainment, owners of the Capitals and the Wizards, and manage Capital One Arena downtown. You might have heard of them. They've been in the news recently. An incredible organization. I've had the pleasure of meeting Ted Leonsis on a handful of occasions, and he is a really genuine, very caring and passionate individual. And I'm very excited about his new venture. I think it's going to be great for the Commonwealth of Virginia. So, I'm just, I am the sole representative for the business unit out at Eagle Bank Arena. It is property of George Mason University. The Commonwealth of Virginia owns it. And Eagle Bank is the corporate sponsor. That's how that relationship works. And then Monumental Sports and Entertainment runs the day-to-day. And I'm the proud general manager of a staff of 12 full-time team members. And we have additional shared services at Capital One Arena downtown and our other various office locations. And we probably do the work of 20, 25 people hosting 150 to 175 events annually. It's really awe-inspiring when you sit and you think about the fact that there are 12 people with boots on the ground that are able to produce that many events, and that's what I love about it. And that was what got me turned on. And I remember exactly the moment I was taking a facility management, a venue management class with a guy named John Bolin, and he was the GM at what was the old Carolina Coliseum at University of South Carolina, proud Gamecock. And John was the best teacher I never had. John would walk into class and he'd introduce the guest speaker, and the guest speaker for the day was whoever his client was that was in the building. So if it was the Sesame Street promoter, he or she was speaking to us. If it was the Ringling or the Disney promoter, they were speaking to us. We had a cat named Wilson Howard, who's a legendary rock promoter, and he talked about Stevie Nicks and all that went with it, and all the great backstage stories that you heard. And I was just so turned on by all of these different people and the idea of being in a place where something different happened every day. And that's really what it is. And I caught that bug when I first got out of school and I was doing my internship, and we opened a brand new venue in North Charleston. And I've not only had the opportunity to open that venue, but I've opened four other venues that I've been directly involved with. And that is, again, just an absolute charge. And it's managed and organized chaos. It is so stressful, and you've got deadlines like you've never believed, and it's so much fun. It is so much freaking fun. And I love the challenge. And when things get at their worst, when we do things like invite Governor Youngkin to come and speak, and all of the controversy that went into that, all of the extra precautions that had to be taken into consideration for having the highest ranking state official from the Commonwealth, and everything extra that we had to do, as in, insane and as crazy as that was, I relished it, and I loved the opportunity to sort of sit and take a deep breath and go, we got this. Okay, we need this security protocol. Great. You need this many additional state police. We need to find a location for them. Okay. We got to rent additional weapons detection systems. All right, let's make a phone call. And if that person can't help us, let's make another phone call. And I just like it is. I hesitate to say the word. It's like a drug, but it is. It's an addiction.
Yeah.
That energy, and you're constantly solving problems, and you're it's so much fun, and I enjoy it, and it's stressful, and then it is a just a barrel full of laughs when you sit back and you think about some of the ridiculous things that you had to go through. But I wouldn't trade it for the world.
I love that. And so you got your start in college and you're at a college. So maybe this is a teachable moment. If you were a sport management student, would the first step would be to like really reach out and get connected to a venue for an internship?
Sure. I think the most important thing that you can do if you're interested in getting into sports management is identifying a discipline. Look, it is it's called sports business for a reason. It is a business. It's not about hanging around and hanging out with Cedric the Entertainer, though I did 2 weeks ago when he came through town. And Ced's a great guy. It's not about getting autographs and seeing famous people and doing all that. It is a business. At the end of the day, you have to have a specific discipline, whether you're a project manager, whether you're in finance and you manage the ticket sales, whether you're the general manager and you're responsible for the overall rental structure of the deal, making sure the artist gets paid, making sure that the venue gets paid, and making sure that the accounting on the ticketing is correct, and ultimately being the person responsible for that. So my piece of advice for anybody getting into sports management, whether it's at the, at the doing your undergraduate or considering a graduate degree, is find a business discipline, whether it's accounting, whether it's finance, whether it's HR, if it's marketing. Make sure that you are up to speed on all of the various technology advances that are associated with marketing, and be ahead of the curve. And really find something that is tangible, so that if chasing the neon lights and the stardust doesn't work, or you realize that it's not as much fun as you thought it might be, that you have a opportunity to take those skills and transfer them. I was introduced to a young man who's at Ohio State right now, and he's getting a degree in finance, and he wanted to do an internship with us this summer. And honestly, internships in our particular building in the summer really don't make a lot of sense, because you're going to be doing all kinds of clerical work and research, and you're not going to have hands-on event experience. And when I said to this young man, I was like, you have a finance degree. Focus on the finance degree. And in your spare time, go work at the Schottenstein Center at Ohio State University. I know the GM there. I can make a phone call. I can forward your resume. You can get connected. Go work as an usher, as a ticket taker, as a stagehand. Do something in that world and understand, but pursue your finance degree. Every venue, every sports organization, they all need accountants. They all need analysts. They need people in finance. There are far more opportunities than if you're going to try and break in through the marketing department or the events department. So that really is my suggestion. And while you're on campus, there are so many opportunities that are going to give you learning, whether it's with the athletic department, whether it's with student involvement, whether it is with homecoming, whatever it is. There are all kinds of experiences and opportunities to put those nuggets into your professional toolbox, to have that experience, to put it on your resume, to be able to talk about it during a interview of what are special event experiences that you've had, what are challenges that you've dealt with, what have you learned about the event business, because that's really what it is. It's about experience. And yeah, the really good event organizers have experience, and that's how they solve problems. I tell my staff all the time, listen, I'm not smarter than anybody else in the room. I've just been doing it longer. And when I seem to be, somewhat like predicting the future and saying, this is going to happen, and team members look at me and go, how'd you know that? It's like, because I've been doing this a long time. And after 30 years of being in this business, not only domestically here in the United States, but abroad in China for 10 years, I haven't seen it all, but I've seen a lot. So, whatever you can do during your college experience to get something beyond learning, interaction with people and interaction with experience, and it doesn't have to be a high scale, it doesn't have to be a Mason basketball game. It doesn't have to be a high profile 5K runs have all the same elements that putting on a Mason basketball game do. You've got to have an activity. You've got to have organizers. You've got to have staff. You've got to have funds. You've got to work with law enforcement. There's all these different things, and they're all transferable. So even the smallest little fraternity party can have elements that can provide you with experience for your your future career in the event world.
So you did talk about a lot of the transferable skills from event planning that rolled over, and you said that not all of it was exciting and thrills and frills. So when you were in that classroom or you were getting your experience, what was some of the things that really lit you up and getting into this space, event space? And what was some of the things you're like, man, this is not what I really like to do, but you had to kind of force yourself to build skills in that?
Um, I love the diversity. I really love the fact that you do different things every day. I'm so stoked. We've got a 2 week stretch in March, and we've got on March 6th, we've got Jayco, who's a reggaeton Latin rapper. And then March 7th, we've got Keisha Cole. Then March 8th, we got We Dem Ones with Dure Davis. And then March 9th, we got Mason basketball. And March 10th, we got Harlem Globetrotters. That's a 5 day stretch of back to back to back to back. And it's intense. And we're already planning it. And it's going to be super stressful. And people are going to be running on fumes. And we're going to be really excited by the time we get to Mason basketball, because once we put the basketball floor down, we have 2 days in a row where it's the same setup. And, we'll be excited for that. But I just like, man, my juices are flowing just from talking about it. It's going to be challenging, and it's going to be very long hours, and it's going to be tremendously beneficial to the university and to the financial balance sheet of our annual budget. The following week, we've got um, Brian Adams on Thursday, or on Wednesday the 13th. We are holding a second date. This is confidential. A second date for Gabriel Iglesias on the Thursday, with the Friday night show is probably going to sell out. Then on Saturday, we got an artist named Gloria Trevi, Mexican artist. And on Sunday, we have Young Dylan and that girl Lele, what used to be known as the Scream Tour. They're grown up a little bit, so they gave it a slightly different name. But again, it's that's a week later, and we are planning and trying to figure out how are we going to staff this event, how are we going to get through it as a full-time staff, who's going to be responsible for what, and how are we going to be super efficient and make sure that we take every opportunity to maximize the revenue in that 2 week span. And again, I talk a lot about revenue. People around campus that know me know that I talk about revenue all the time. And at the end of the day, we probably meet our revenue expectations from the management company 9 or 10 months into the gig. So that means that everything else that we generate in those remaining 2 months of the year, all of that money goes back to the university, back to student services, back to business services. And so that's what that's what my job is. When people ask me what my job is to drive revenue and to be responsible for revenue. And we do that by selling tickets and food and beverage and all the other ancillaries that go along with it. And again, that's when you've been doing it this long, this is the part that I find the most interesting and the most challenging, because at the end of the day, if the numbers aren't there, I'm the only one responsible. I may have a team that I work with, but I'm the person that has to answer the bell.
Now, one of the things I'm thinking about, obviously we're both family men, and I could see that lifestyle being very exciting. How's that lifestyle shifted as you become a family man and a parent? Like it's a different lifestyle,
It's
like all the hours and all
it
that.
is, it is, and it's the reason why I live so close to the arena, um, and I plan work in advance, and I plan my life in advance. This trip to see my father was somewhat uh, was somewhat a spur of the moment, but I had I had identified these dates as possible dates, so it wasn't a complete surprise. And that's really the biggest challenge with my wife and with my kids is, managing the calendar and knowing, okay, these are dates where daddy's availability is not going to be very good, and this is this is the sacrifice, so that dad gets to do what he loves to do, but he also gets to provide for his family, to live in a great neighborhood, to go to a great school, and to have all the other activities that they get to do. And I, as much as I need to be here and be responsible, I've got a tremendous team that I work with. So, if we're doing a concert on a Saturday, I may stop in first thing in the morning and check check with everybody once the doors roll up, and we greet the promoter and the production manager and make sure that things get off on the right foot, and then I'll turn around and head out for 4 or 5 hours and go to the soccer fields and see you and Maggie out there, and you know and decline the invitation to go to the playground because I got to get the kids back because they've got several other things, and I've got to get back to the arena. So it's I'm in a position where I'm able to have flexibility in my schedule. When we don't have events, I do try to get home. I do try to make sure that I'm making the most of that time that I'm not doing events. And again, I've got a great team and we all share the load. And so, am I at every basketball game? No, I'm not. I'm not going to be at the VCU game tomorrow night. I'm bummed. I think it's going to be a great game, but um, I will leave it to my team to take care of it. And again, at this stage in my career, there are probably times that I should be spending a little more time at home, and it's been an interesting journey at George Mason because I came in 2019 right at the end of the year. December was when I started, and I had a month to transition with the outgoing GM who had been at the building for 35 years. And so I was handed the reins from somebody who had run the venue for 33 years as the top guy. And that was a big set of shoes, that was on the other side of the room. And I put my shoes right next to him, and I those were the only shoes I was going to wear, but I was being compared, and it was certainly a challenge. And I was up for it, and then all of a sudden, March 12th rolls around and the world turns upside down. And I got to tell you, that was a really, um, it's a generational experience that we're all still going through. COVID may be over, but we're still dealing with the after effects. And we will talk about COVID-19 for the next 100 years until the next great pandemic, or hopefully that doesn't happen. But that was really a a speed bump. What do they call it in the Avenger movies? There, it's like a blip. I think that's what they call it, where you had those years that just seemed to just disappear, and that's what COVID felt like. And all of a sudden, when it was time to turn the lights back on and go back to work, it was interesting. So it was really a challenge for me to have just been given the responsibility to be the GM of the venue and learn what was going well and where we might be able to make improvements, and then have this 18-month slowdown of, we're still operating the venue, we're still doing basketball games, we're working as a clinic, doing shots, with EHS, and getting the community vaccinated, and that was a tremendous experience, and it was great to be helpful and useful in a time of uncertainty. So I just really feel like I'm catching my stride in the last year or so, and I'm able to work with my team to implement new things, and we're able to find ways to save money, and we're able to maximize revenues in other areas, and promote people and train people and get them to evolve to the next level as an event professional or as a venue management professional. And so that's been exciting. And, you know, I feel like I should be further along 4 years into this job, but there was, a pandemic. And so that's been a challenge, but it's a good challenge. And, you know,
Now, one thing I was thinking about, what makes Eagle Bank unique in a sense that, okay, we're not in a city. We're literally smack dab in residential suburbs. We're a college. What makes Eagle Bank unique in regards to your experience and unique as a venue?
well, I think the fact that, the capacity is where it is, and there is a tremendous venue downtown. Not just because we're part of the family. Capital One is a 22,000 seat venue downtown, and it hosts all of the greatest world class entertainment, sporting events that you could imagine. And then there are other tremendous venues in town, and somebody once told me when I got into this business, a rising tide raises all boats. And the fact that you've got Constitution Hall, and you've got the Warner Theater, and you've got the Anthem, and you've got MGM, you've got all this tremendous infrastructure for entertainment in this area. So DC is one of those markets where, quite honestly, Phil, there's probably a room where you and I could go, we could get on stage, and not sure what we would do to entertain folks, but we could sell 200 tickets because that's what they do in this market. And it's a great market. It's a mature market. And so what we have always done at Eagle Bank Arena, and before that the Patriot Center, was we found our niche. And in from pretty much the day one, we have been a venue show, a family show venue, for Disney on Ice, Sesame Street Live, Paw Patrol Live, Trolls Live, Cirque du Soleil, Lipizzan Stallions, Harlem Globetrotters. The list goes on and on. And we are easy. We're convenient. We're conveniently located. We're 25 miles away from Capital One Arena, and in many other cities, 25 miles isn't very far. But the number of people in the DMV, if you were to ask them, hey, when's the last time you went downtown? Unless you're a diehard Nats fan or a Caps fan, what do you go once a month downtown? Twice a month? So it is worlds away. And so I think that, the market has a lot to do with it. The venue is really unique, and it's a classic, small, tight venue that there's not a bad seat in that arena. There's 8,000 seats for most concerts. And so we've found our niche in the secondary market of entertainment. So Latin shows, Southeast Asian shows, those artists that are on their way up, and those artists that are coming down, that's our wheelhouse. And there's a market for that because DC is such an entertainment rich market. And we provide a room that is suitable, whether it's for Pentatonics at Christmas time, or the Judd's farewell tour. I mean, we had a show in September called RBD, and it's a Mexican. I won't call it a boy band, but it was a pop group, and it was started from a television show, and they were aspiring artists. They were actors and singers. They were 17, 18 years old in Mexico, and this television show became so popular that somebody said, well, let's put them out on tour. And they became a tremendous touring artist. And so they had their reunion tour. And thank God Madonna wanted the date downtown, and Morgan Wallen was playing at the stadium. There was nowhere else for this show to go. And the tour was pretty much locked, and they needed to play DC because they were going to New York the next night. And we fell into the date. And I got to be honest, I had no idea who they were. And I was talking with Live Nation, who was the promoter of the show, and I'm like, we're really doing this? I said, we've been talking about this. And I'm like, okay. They're like, this is a big Mexican band. I'm okay. Okay, great. It's a reunion tour. Okay, great. I didn't do much research beyond that. Put the show on sale. I looked at the ticket prices. I'm like, my goodness, the ticket prices are out of this world. They were like $300, $400 for the top price tickets. And then before it even went on sale to the public, the pre-sale had sold like 5,000 seats. I was like, oh my goodness, this thing's going to sell out. And sure enough, one day of public on sale, and it was done. And we were holding on to almost $3 million worth of ticket funds for 6 months. And it was the highest grossing show we ever did. And it was massive. It was a great production. It was unbelievable. See the 5 artists all on one like sort of um, ship, and they came out from behind the stage. It was fantastic, and they were spectacular. And people, their fans, were unbelievable. They were all dressed up in their outfits and singing every word, every song. It was unbelievable. And those are the moments. Those are my moments. Those are the ones that nobody can take from me. And I can't explain them well enough for the feelings that I get, because you're involved from the very beginning to seeing it come to fruition, and being a part of that experience, that communal experience with 8,000 people just absolutely beside themselves with joy. And that's, man, you can't put that into words, what that feels like to be able to be a part of that, and a significant part of that.
And I was thinking, I think that kind of speaks, like, as once again, what makes Eagle Bank unique is that it speaks to the diversity of Northern Virginia too. Because like even my mother-in-law came down for a Juanes. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, my
Sure.
mother-in-law lives here. I mean, her sister came down here for Juanes, and like all the diversity in the shows, that sell out. I think that
It,
speaks to
it,
the
it's
area too.
it's unbelievable. It was 2 years ago. I was with the chief operating officer of Harlem Globetrotters, and I was speaking with him about how the the marketing seemed to be really focused on just one demographic, and I really was hoping that they would consider expanding. I said, Jeff, walk with me, and we walked down to the court after the game, and I said, look, we got the children of the rainbow here. I mean, you've got Asian children, African American children, white children, Southeast Asian. Everybody is here. Everyone has this huge smile on their face. They're so excited to be interacting with the players, and the players are tremendous. They are like, it doesn't matter. They are just giving their joy to all of these different people, and I was like, that this is what the melting pot is here in DC. It really is such a diverse market, and as you know, my wife is from mainland China, and you know, diversity is a key part of our of our being. We have children that are Chinese-born Americans or American-born Chinese, and we celebrate that diversity. So coming to DC was such a huge move for us, and it has allowed us to really enjoy the diversity of the place where we met and we lived, which was Shanghai, which is an incredibly diverse place. So
Now I'm thinking moving into the future. I think I'm approaching old man on the porch. These kids always they got their phones out when they're watching events. Do you think the landscape of live events is going to change? You think there's always, no matter what we do with like holograms and all that, that people want to be in person? What are your thoughts on a future of venue spaces and in-person experiences?
I think that question was answered for itself coming out of COVID. When you think about 18 months where the live event industry really was non-existent, and when all the restrictions were lifted, the number of venues and teams, places that were setting records, were having the best years ever for attendance. Again, you and I could have been on stage and we could have sold 500 tickets that year, Phil. I It was just unbelievable. Every artist was going back out on tour and everybody wanted to be out there. And they were reminded about the communal experience and what it was to be with people. And I think that will always exist. And I hope that that never goes away because you can't replace that. You can't put that on a hologram. You can't, you know, try to experience that. I mean, everybody who went to see Taylor Swift in the movie theater and sang along with it, they were having an experience with people in the theater that is so different than a normal movie. So, but it wasn't the same thing as, having gone to see it in person. And the number of people that went and saw it in person, and then they went and saw it in the theater again because they just, I really believe that that live experience. I had nieces that went to see Taylor in Pittsburgh, and they said it was the greatest show they'd ever seen in their lives. And I've seen Taylor 4 times, and she's incredibly tall, uh, unbelievable. She does not need to wear heels, but striking and a great performer who cares. And as long as there are those kind of artists out there that are providing that kind of experience and they're incorporating new technology and they're able to bridge the gap somewhat with technology where you can use your phone to participate and you can do things. You can, instead of taking out a lighter, you take out your phone. And so I don't think the live experience is going away anytime soon. I really don't. And I'm so excited as a venue professional, as an event professional, having seen what happened after COVID, because you know we were the first industry to really go out completely. Like we couldn't do anything, and when we did come back, we were doing we were doing less than 100 people at basketball just so that teams could compete. And we were the last business to really recover from COVID, where we could be back in a normal environment. Our business could be back to what it was. You didn't have to have a seat in between people that you were sitting next to, or you didn't have to wear a mask. um, so it the live experience is not going to go away. And as long as there is children's theater and other experiences, and there are parents who enjoy live shows and share that with their children, whether that be family style entertainment or they introduce them to artists that are somebody that they might like the OJs just did their farewell tour, and the number of older parents that were there with their kids in their 30s and 40s, because this was this was the OJs and the Whispers, and that was an experience for families. And I think as long as we continue to do that, and I don't see a reason why it wouldn't. When you go to a show, and I'm somewhat jaded because I go to a lot of shows and I go to a lot of shows for work, but I went this summer to see the first band I ever saw was a band called The Squeeze, and they were playing with a group called the Psychedelic Furs. And again, I'm showing my age here because anybody who watches this podcast who's under the age of 35 are like, what the hell's he talking about? But oh my goodness, I was reminded why live events are so incredibly awesome. I screamed for 2 hours, sang along with every song, and I didn't. And it was one of those great experiences because Psychedelic Furs was a band that I knew, and I knew several of their songs. But then as they continued to play, I was like, oh wait a minute, I know that song, and I sang along with that one. Oh, I know that one too. And when the band of all bands for me, the Squeeze, came on, I didn't stop singing for 90 minutes. And I was transported to those good times of being a teenager. And really, this was transformative music for me when I was 17, 18 years old.
And so one of my thoughts too that I'm coming in, like we see the cycle, like Yankee Stadium kind of changes, right? When do you think it's time for venues to like update? What's the rationale? Like, because there's part of it that's nostalgic, right? Like Wrigley Field is Wrigley Field, but then they were renovated. Like, I'm just learning from your standpoint of why do venues do that? And it's like history, but they make it bigger. Like, what's going on there?
Look, it is like any other business. It's like any other customer-based experience. You want new amenities. You want to go and you want to have a wide variety of hospitality options. You want to have technology. You want to have big scoreboards. You want to have that first class customer experience. You you don't want to just watch a ball game. You want to interact. You want to be able to really have a tremendous experience. And this is something that Ted Leonsis talks about all the time, is like delivering the greatest fan-based experience for whatever the event that it is that we host. And we're an antique building. We're a unique building in that we don't have suites and we don't have clubs, and you're right there. And that is something like people like yourself really love about that that venue. And I know you saw him there on Saturday. Michael was there with Samara, our mutual friend from the daycare center, and Michael and I were sitting there, and he was asking, he's like, so how many people are here? And I said, 2,600. And he's like, how do you know that? I said, well, I just got the number on my phone. I said, so that's how I know exactly what the number is. He goes, but I would have thought that there were like 4,000 or 5,000 people here. And I said, that's the beauty of this building. And that's what makes it so unique, is it's such a great room that people can spread out a little bit, and it looks full and it feels full. And you were there Saturday. I mean, they were into that game right up until the end, and they were making noise and heckling foul free throw shooters and the whole bit. And it was it's tremendous when you start putting 5,000 and 6,000 people in there. And when you do a sold out concert for 8,000 people like we did in September, it's electric, and that's what makes it special and unique. But you know, we we've had conversations with administration, with the different folks at finance, and everyone wants to know, how are we going to expand the experience at Eagle Bank Arena, and it's certainly something that is being discussed, and it's an expensive proposition. And you know, it's not like there's $500 million laying around for us to build the next Eagle Bank Arena. And there's, you know, if there's money for renovations to do other things, you know, it's an interest. It's a difficult proposition, because okay, so if we were to spend $100,000 to increase the experience at Eagle Bank Arena, could that $100 million be spent somewhere else on campus to expand the student experience and the educational experience? There are smarter people in the world that are going to answer that question. So.
Well, this is the part of the show. I'll call it shot for shot. You get to ask any random question. I get to ask any random question. You want to go first? I'll go first.
You go first.
I mean, you talked about one of your top experiences as attendee, and I think you listed a few experiences, as the general manager. But what is like your, this is my mountaintop. This was the greatest. Like when I tell the legend story.
Luciano Pavarotti.
That story. Yeah. What's your biggest event? Yeah, go ahead.
That was it. He was a world-class superstar, and he came to Trenton, New Jersey, and it was his second to last performance before he passed. And he played No Some Dorma, which is my most favorite Pavarotti song. And I still can feel it in the back of my neck. I stood still I was walking down a set of stairs, and he started to play, and I was just in a trance, and it was the most amazing experience, and it transported so many emotions because it wasn't just about me being there as the assistant GM, getting my picture with Luciano, hearing him sing Nos Dorma. It was about, my grandfather and my mother, who were huge Pavarotti fans, and neither one could be there, but like I was there for them. So, that hands down, that was the moment.
That's crazy. You didn't
So,
even hesitate. You didn't even hesitate. That
uh,
was quickly. Yeah, it's
I,
crazy.
you know, um, we sort of play this game, when you tend to go out with coworkers, and you all you do is talk about work, and it's a real problem with event types, because it doesn't matter where you go, you just inevitably circle back to work, and I always try to break it up and say, all right, well, if we're going to talk about work, let's talk about personal experiences, and that for me is it. So so I'll ask you the same question, Phil. Like, what was the be all end all, live event moment? Whether it was sports, whether it was a concert, and What was the venue, and what were the other contributing factors? Were there any illegal or illicit substances involved?
Oh man. Well, I will. I'll kind of do a cheat, and when I say a cheat, I'll do it most recently, going to the Commanders game, but just recently, not the one I went to yesterday, but the Commanders versus the 49ers. And the only reason why it's full of top of mind, because it was the first game I took my son Bennett to, and like just seeing him light up as like this is almost a very surreal moment, because I grew up going to these games, Commander skins, whatever you want to call it, for like over 20 something years with my dad. And like I've always been hesitant to say like I'm never buying season tickets. Like that's my dad's thing. And just going with Bennett, I'm like, oh man, I might get suckered into this, because like this is what it feels like. Like he'll never, I'll never experience that first with him again, right? Being able to take him to his first game, but just the consistency and the full circleness of like the very next week I went with my dad, and that's just like just a father son experience. Like I don't even care honestly if they win or lose. Like they're not a good team. Like I'll tell you right now, the Commanders are not a good team. But it's just the fact that this is something that generationally that me and my dad get to experience together. Really, just really, that's something where we spend time together. And me, as the joys of being a parent, like this is something that's like, wow, this is what it is. This is when you have a shared interest with one of your kids, and I just couldn't. I was lit up. I was fired up. I was more so fired up that he actually liked it. I was like, I was kind of nervous, like he might not like this. What if he doesn't want to do this again? Now he was like, we're going again. Can I take your ticket and go with Papa? And I was like, I was literally I was on cloud nine going home and telling Maggie, like, he liked this game. He liked going. Everyone was high fiving him. He had a positive experience. Like there was no drama. There was no, we can get people, Commanders fans can get a little rowdy, but our section was all love, right? Like he had a positive experience that was it. So I know that's a little cheating because it's first top of mind, but that
No,
was
no,
that was a dope experience. So now we gotta wait till
awesome.
next year. And I also already apologized. I said, son, I'm sorry for this lifelong hurt that you're about to have, because they're never gonna be good. So just get used to spending time with me or Papa. That's the benefit, because they're not good.
Absolutely.
They lost both. They lost the game. So that's great. Well, this is the part of the show. Thank you so much for your time. Called shout outs and plugs. So shout outs, you get to show love to anyone you want to show love to. And then plugs, these are things you just want to share, things that you want the listeners to follow up on or learn about, any links or things like that. I'll put it in the show notes. But shout outs and plugs.
Sure. Shout out and plugs. Well, shout out to the Mason Nation. I continue to be honored and grateful for the opportunity to be responsible for the team that bring, not just great sports and entertainment, not just Mason men's and women's basketball that are both going to be fantastic and very competitive in this year. And if you haven't been to a game yet, you need to get out to a game. VCU tomorrow night. The women play Wednesday night. I think they got Dayton Wednesday night. Um, you know, they're going to be so exciting to watch. They're both going to be super competitive in the A10 this year. And, you heard it here first. Women are going to compete for the A10 title. If not, during the regular season, they've got their experience in the tournament. They are going to be a force to be reckoned with if they stay healthy. And I think the men are going to surprise a lot of people. They are. Tony Skinn has done a great job for a first-year head coach. I mean, Vanessa has built that program in the 3 years she's been here, but Tony has put together an incredible group. So if you haven't been to a game, you need to get to a game. And the other element of what we do is we're not just the sports and entertainment venue. Our primary purpose is graduation. uh, George Mason winter graduation, George Mason spring graduation, degree conferment ceremonies. And one of the other things that we do, which most people know, that their first experience of Eagle Bank Arena sometimes is having graduated, having done their high school graduation at Eagle Bank Arena or the Patriot Center. And, you know, for some kids, that's the highlight. Like walking across that stage, seeing themselves on the big screen, that is a bucket list moment that, that may be the pinnacle for them. And I don't take that lightly. And that is something that I know that, there are kids, and there are, we talk about the diversity at Mason, and how we've got first generation students who are, you know, graduating from college, and they're the first in their families to graduate. That's special. That is really, really special. And, we do 50 graduations a year between university and high school graduations. And, that's important stuff. It's not only important to the community to provide a venue for that to happen, but it's also a great way to be an ambassador for George Mason University to all those high school kids who haven't yet made up their mind, or are thinking about grad school, or the little brothers or the little sisters, or just a reminder to come to Fairfax and walk around that beautiful campus and see what an incredible place it is that you and I get to come to every day, And so it's that's why I love this. And this is why I'm so passionate about not just this venue and the venue industry, but like I walk out my door and I can walk and see the reflection off the pond. And I am reminded almost on a daily basis what an incredible, incredible little place Eagle Bank Arena is. And I'm so tickled and so grateful to have the role and have the responsibilities that I do. And I love that we get to share that experience with not just so many people, but with all kinds of different events.
And any resources you want to share with the listeners?
Um, EagleBankArena.com for
Thank
all
you.
your event information. We're always looking for labor. We're always looking for staff. If you're on campus, whether you're a student, whether you're a full-time faculty, you're a full-time administrator, we have so much of our staff. As you know, Dorothea works over at the CDC, and she's there. It's a great way to supplement her income. We have so many folks on campus that work part-time as their side hustle to pay for their vacations or their hobbies or whatever it is. For students, what a great opportunity with 150 events going on, and all, not just the events, but those events all have to get turned over. And so you take the 6 or 8 hours that you work the event, and then you multiply that times 2, because there's another 6 or 8 hours of work that has to get done by another set of staff to turn the building over for the next event. So, there's employment opportunities, and again, eaglebankarena.com. The event schedule is there. The frequently asked questions about what the updated security measures are, what you can and what you can't bring. The link to employment opportunities. That's really the resource that I'd like to share.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time. Positive Filter listeners, please check out all the wonderful events that are happening on Eagle Bank. I already marked my calendar for a few of these to take my sons. Also, please share this episode with family members or friends. As you know, every episode is dedicated to the memory of my father-in-law, Jeff Kirsch. And so please check out in the show notes the Jeff Kirsch Anti-Hunger Fund to support his work and his efforts throughout his life. This is just another great episode. Please continue to engage, like, subscribe, give a review, all those different things, and we're out. Thank you for listening to Positive Filter, a podcast that focuses on family, friends, career, with a little self-help along the way. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and like the Facebook page, Spreading Positivity of Movement. Thanks for listening.